Go LSU.
Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, good morning. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call or text us at 260-1870 on Oakland Hard Talk and Text Line. We're on until 10 o'clock. Good morning, Albert.
Hey, Doug. What's up, man?
Oh, lots up. LSU baseball. I guess Saints finished mini camp, but mostly LSU baseball. And, they were taking advantage of their opportunities. Last Monday night at about 8:45, I was thinking this is going to be the worst upset in the history of NCAA baseball. And, since about 8:45, LSU's been rocking and rolling. And so looks like they have a clear path to Omaha. Barring a collapse, they should get there a little bit. And, we'll see. We'll see.
I know you're a homer, Doug, but that was some ugly baseball yesterday.
Well, you had,
It was just ugly pitching. It was ugly.
Well, okay.
They had how many runs scored on them on LSU?
Well, here's a couple of things. I flew in from Charlotte, North Carolina yesterday, and I was on the plane with the family of the left fielder for West Virginia. And we just talked about the game and strategic, what was the concerns for West Virginia. And they had said there was two things that they were worried about. Was one, the heat. And they were saying, well, we played in Clemson, so we're hoping that prepares us for Baton Rouge. And I said, look, Baton Rouge is so much closer to the equator than Clemson. There's no comparison. It's just not any comparison as far as the heat. And the second thing they were worried about is if LSU got into their bullpen. And if you notice during the game in the first four innings, LSU was taking a lot of pitches to try to drive up that pitch count because they have two starters that they felt good, the starter yesterday and today, they feel good about. And they think they could win with him. But they were very concerned about if LSU got into their bullpen, heck would break loose. And so if you notice during the first four innings, LSU was taking a lot of pitches. You had, some of their better hitters going to 3-2 count. And if it was 3-0, 3-1, some of them were even taking pitches on 3-1. And so they did, between driving up the pitch count in the heat, that was the strategy that Jay Johnson used to get to their bullpen. And the two things that the family talked about proved to be true. Also, if you notice, part of the deal why West Virginia is a station to station, good base, steal, get on base, steal bases, good defense, and good starting pitching. That's what's taken them, as far as they have. But if you notice, they made a lot of mistakes, and I think that had a lot to do with the heat. And I just don't think they're used to playing in this heat. Now, as far as the LSU's pitching is concerned, once they got up to 10-1, as a pitcher, you change your philosophy from nibbling at the corners to getting outs. You will trade outs for runs. So what Kate Anderson started doing, and that's why William Schmidt was taken out, is pitching coach says, don't worry about nibbling the corners. Just get the ball over the plate. We don't think we'll trade an out for a run, and we don't think they have the hit power. They have the hitting to come back. They came back a little bit, but the only way that LSU felt like they could lose at 10-1 and when they were way ahead is if we give them free passes and put them on base, and then they start hitting. So philosophically, as they told Cade and the other pitchers, just throw the ball over the middle of the plate. They might hit some home runs. They might get some runs, but we'll trade outs for hits, and we will not give them free passes. And that's in essence what happened. Now, here's on the other side. West Virginia is much like Kentucky, where you have to, they play small ball. And when you play small ball, you have to play good defense. And they kick the ball around, And the other thing was the pitchers gave up 8. West Virginia pitchers gave up 8 walks and 3 hit by pitches. So that was 11 free passes. LSU gave up 11 free passes against Little Rock and Arkansas, or, Little Rock, and they lost. So you're not going to win a game when you give 11 free passes, hence the ugliness of the game. So, I think the other thing, too, is when they came in, for relief, when they took Cade out, they probably let him go a little longer to extend him so that they would not go into the bullpen. They brought in Schmidt and they brought in Reezy. So they didn't need to use Case and Evans. They didn't need to use Cowan. They didn't have to use Cooper Williams. So they're set up pretty good for tomorrow with Ianson, and they got basically their full bullpen. So it was an ugly game. You're right, but they got the job done, and they.
Well, I'll take an ugly win anytime, right? I mean,
right.
It's all about moving on.
Right. But part of the ugly.
There was a lot of wild pitches. It was a lot of. I'm like, man, this is. So I don't know if maybe their hands were sweaty and the humidity and the ball just wasn't. They didn't have the right grip on it or what. But it was some wild baseball. It just it didn't look like two teams that were that far advanced into the playoffs.
Well, actually, I was going to go to the game because we were going to land at about 10:30, and I was just going to basically go from the game to Alex Box. And then I looked at the weather forecast, and I said, nope, I think I'm going to stay in my living room. And if you weren't under the overhang, you're baking. I mean, absolutely. I mean, oppressively hot. And so,
you heard the weather. You heard the weather during the break. It's going to be 110 heat index.
Right. And
humidity coming out of the Gulf.
And actually, there's a couple things. One, you have in June, you have the south wind blowing out from home plate to center field, basically, or home plate to right field. And you saw that the Curiel home run and the monster home run was, they coming off the bat, they didn't look like they were home runs, but it just carries when it's hot and you have that south wind. Because in Alex Box, when you have games in March, you often have fronts come through and you have the north wind that blows it in from center field to home plate. But when you get later in the year, you have that south wind. So Alex Box becomes a launching pad. And, so hence, 2 grand slams, and you had Milam, and 2 grand slams, and, three home runs with another home run with 2 on. So, that's Alex Box, which I don't want to get ahead of myself. But in Omaha, you generally have that time of year, you have a bigger field, and you have a wind that generally blows in from center field to home plate. So a lot of those games are like 2-1 games, 4-3 games, because it is a pitcher's ballpark, where right now LSU with the south wind is a hitter's ballpark. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another game with double digits if they get into the bullpens. So they did what they had to do. It was ugly, and I think he didn't have to bring in Kasem Evans to save the game, which was great. Because if it was maybe a 5-4 game, 4-3, they might have had to burn Kasem Evans to save the game. Where you would, if you went to a game 3, you sort of have a free for all as far as who's pitching, pitching is concerned. So they're set up very well. I think West Virginia was just freaked out, and just having the conversation on the plane with the with the family members, to sort of doing an informal scouting. The heat was the thing that they were really worried about, because you can't prepare for that. I mean, you just can't. I mean, nothing you can do can prepare you. And I think when it comes to baseball, and the game is won by just very small margins. Fielding the ball, getting if you're third baseman throwing the ball across the diamond, it's just the margins are very thin, and I think sometimes that he was maybe the difference is, not acclimated and making some mistakes that they normally would not make. So there you go. So tomorrow, I think they have a very the the key will be who gets into whose bullpen first, and I think whoever gets into the bullpen of the other team wins. So, or in other words, whatever starting pitcher lasts along is probably going to win. So, we'll see. We'll see. Unless.
And the game's tomorrow, right?
No, it's today. It's today. I'm saying today. It's today at 5:00. Pregame at 4:30. But I think if the dilemma with LSU would have is if they're in a 4-4 game, 5-5 game, do they bring in Case and Evans to try to close it out and burn him for tomorrow, or do you save him tomorrow? So you're going to have a lot of coaching done decisions that are going to be second guessed either way if you have a close game on whether to bring in, Case and Evans or save them for tomorrow. And so that's one of the decisions that have to be made. Coach Johnson's going to do that. So it's going to be a lot of. Well, I guess what I'm saying is going to be a lot of strategy as to how you deal with a possible third game versus burning your best pitchers to win this game, and whether you go all in and then leave yourself exposed for Monday if you lose, or you go all in and you win and you make Monday moot. So I think that's the question. But LSU's in great shape. You couldn't be in better shape. And if they win, they would play the winner of Arkansas and Tennessee. Arkansas won yesterday 4-3. If you're an LSU fan, pull for Tennessee tomorrow so that you can at least extend Arkansas till Monday and, have them burn some pitching and, just extend them. I'd rather play Tennessee than Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a better team.
And then when would we play? We play them over the weekend, next weekend?
The first games are Friday, Saturday. So that's subject to TV.
One of those 2 days.
Right. And then if they play Friday, win or lose, they would play Monday. If they play Saturday, no, they would win or lose, they would play Sunday, I believe. And if they play Saturday, win or lose, they play Monday. They would play in the day if they lost 2 days later, or they would play the feature game at night if they won. So the other teams that are in the bracket is University of Texas, San Antonio, UCLA, Duke and Murray State, which is if you get past Arkansas or Tennessee, you have a pretty good draw there. And it's basically you have another super regional with those 4 teams, double elimination, and the 2 brackets meet for best 2 out of 3 2 weekends from now. So LSU's looking great, and they just keep doing what they're going to do. It's they're set up perfectly. They just need to execute, and I would say, barring a total collapse, they should get there. But that was that's all you need to know. You're ready for the game now.
Here you go. Right.
And I also is very interesting.
More than I needed to know. But
I know. It's a lot more than you needed to know.
I know you're into it, but anyway.
All right, you indulged me. Also, I think OTAs. Now, I'm glad we're getting very excited about the Saints because I feel like we have descent. Our descent has stopped. Like we're in the bottom of the pit looking up now, rather than bottom of the pit looking down. That's the way I sort of see it. But
well, I think it's going to be fun. Look, as a Saints fan, you got to understand that this is just going to be some time.
Hope,
and it's going to be fun watching the quarterback
develop.
Hopefully we get somebody pulls out and is the clear winner and can win some games for us. And that's. And look, there's nothing wrong with a little healthy quarterback competition. Get guys in there that can, not sit back and think, oh, I got this. Let them play hard the whole time.
Yeah. I just want to caution people. Okay. I just want to caution. Don't put the gold jacket on Shuck just yet. it's going to be, I think he's probably 2 or 3 years away from being a viable quarterback if he becomes a viable quarterback, which is going to be up in the air, or Spencer Rattler. So I think a lot of the social media sites will show highlights of 7-on-7 and showing, God, he's got great accuracy, he's got a great deep ball. 7-on-7 is not football. It's flag football. And the skill set for flag football is different than NFL quarterback. And basically, three things they need is processing, accuracy, and getting the ball out quickly. And 7-on-7 football does not encompass those skill sets. A little bit on the processing, just a little bit. So, it's good to watch the progress, and it's nice to see a good play, but don't draw any conclusions. You just can't, and you won't be able to draw any conclusions to the regular season.
You don't have 2,000 pounds of guys in front of you blocking and coming at you, right?
Right. So, I'm just not to, it's good to be hopeful, and I love that fact. But just got to also be realistic, and it's always, and even preseason, it's a different deal than the regular season, because in preseason, you have some aspects of a regular game, but it's very, very vanilla. You're not putting in, it's just very vanilla defenses. You're not doing anything exotic on defense, and a little bit of the processing issue is there. But when you get to the regular season, it's a different deal, especially when it comes to reading defenses and for a rookie quarterback, most of those quarterbacks who are drafted look wonderful, all the way up until the national anthem. They got the arm, most of the time they got the size. Maybe some of them might have, like Hayner's a little short, but we'll see. So hopefully they continue to progress, but I don't think anybody should draw any conclusions about any of these quarterbacks until about week 4 or 5 of the season, and then you can start having a sample size and seeing if they're NFL quarterbacks or not. So, all right, well, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. I got an interesting topic I want to talk about is the House settlement for college athletes, and it's got a lot of legal issues that I'm going to throw at you, Albert, that people may not think about. So let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after a brief timeout.
WWL, home.
That's what the breaks today are a little longer than normal.
Okay.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But I thought that'd be a great segue. We talked LSU and then Saints, and then we take a break, and we come back with some both sports and legal talk.
Right. Yeah, that's why I wanted to transition to it.
And I just put up some articles about it and everything.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna write an article for the for Odyssey on the House settlement.
It's interesting. I think the part about 2.8 billion 10-year settlement to pay like past players, that's important. But the part where it allows colleges to pay current players directly starting on July, that's what's
I met with one of the attorneys
during the playoffs
who work in the athletic department at LSU, and I was peppering her with all these questions, and she's like, "To be determined, to be determined, to be determined."
We just don't know enough yet.
Yeah. Because the House settlement actually was approved while we were there, and
just visit FanDuel.com/Hebert. That's HEB.
And it was very interesting that
Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and WWL Radio.
21 plus and present in Louisiana. Permitted parishes only.
NCAA rules of long prohibited players. I'm reading this from CBS Sports. NCAA rules of long prohibited players from cashing in on their NIL. But that changed July 1st, 2021, when the organization began allowing players to earn money from third parties and collect it. The House settlement will now enable schools for the first time to pay players directly.
right. You need to be. That's
like the Nico Iamaleava stuff last year. His contract disputes was like with the school, but it was with
the NIL, with the collective. Yeah, with the collectives.
Now, it would simply be like, oh, it's not that this booster from Tennessee doesn't want to pay me $3 million. Tennessee themselves don't want to pay me $3 million.
You sign your construction.
It really is turning into the pros.
No, it is. It's a pro league. That's what.
This is a very nuanced thing. There's some good stuff with that. There's some bad stuff with that.
It's going to change. That's the big. That's the big difference.
It's big. It's really, really, really big.
I think you're going to have your own. You're going to have your own pro league with the Power Five.
Call Sergi's for a free second opinion.
And you've got the meeting they had like last week in Destin for the SEC meeting that they had. I think they had it on like Tuesday or Monday. I was out of town and I remember reading about it. And it was about Greg Sankey, and he was like flirting with the idea of like, we could see the SEC, breaking off from the NCAA and doing our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what?
Yep.
Collision Center.
That's insane.
Well, they already have a new enforcement arm. That's not the NCAA.
But come on, that is insane.
Throughout the Gulf South, we'll show you how much you.
I'll do some more else music here. It's in theme with what we're talking about.
Trash.com.
We all know there's something special by growing up in Louisiana. Our culture, our history, how we care for each other cannot be matched anywhere in the world. The same goes for Louisiana Dental Center, local dentists helping local people just like you and me. And of course, for years, proud partners of our beloved LSU Fighting Tigers. Louisiana Dental Center, your dental home team. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Go Tigers!
Here at the Almond.
Yeah, it's just big. It's big. Here's the question that you guys could talk about if you want. Because this is your show. That's kind of the purpose. Do you like it?
Doesn't really matter.
The important ingredient is
Because it's going to happen. That's my philosophy.
sometimes
You're like, hey, whether I hate it or not, it does not matter because it's happening.
Yeah. That's the philosophy of the.
It's very realistic. I like it. Accepting.
Life insurance.
In the long run, in the immediate future, it might be better for you.
Excuses for
Oh,
life insurance.
for me, I mean, it's a new area of business because,
That's what I'm saying. It's a new area.
I mean, we
Family protected.
we're sort of on the front end of all this.
$2 million in coverage with no
Fantastic to talk about, man.
fees as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions.
We're coming back.
Free
Got
quote
it.
at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio. All things legal on WWL. Consult with Nico and Sunseri now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870. And don't forget to rewind on the Odyssey app.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. This is we get to talk about this. It's sports and legal, and I got some questions for you, Albert. That so I get your opinion. We had I think 40 years ago when I was working, Dale Brown at LSU had told me that college athletes are going to revolt when they realize that all the money that's being made and aside from scholarships, it's not being filtered down to the players. He said this 40 years ago. He thought there would be a strike, meaning the players would just decide not to play one Saturday because of the, maybe perceived inequities as far as the allocation of money for college athletes. And you have this House settlement, and one of the plaintiffs in the House settlement where they had what we're going to go through is he was I think an architecture student, and he had study abroad in Europe, and he wanted to have the school buy a certain type of AutoCAD computer for him so he could use it for the architectural studies in Europe. And this is not really legitimate academic issues, and the NCAA said no. We're not going to buy you. You can't. You have to buy your own computer. It's a violation of the NCAA rules for college athletes. And the NCAA was so heavy-handed and so, greedy, and they didn't get ahead of this issue. And the players did revolt. They didn't revolt in a strike like Coach Brown said, but you have several lawsuits that culminate in this House settlement. And basically, you got a few things that's going to happen, Albert. You're going to have revenue share, where 22% of the athletic revenues and the revenues in the athletic department can go to paying players directly. You also have a a new enforcement arm to enforce a lot of these rules. You're going to have past players who were not compensated by and should have been, except the players who Will Wade paid off, will get their settlement. So, and we were at a convention this past week in Charlotte, an NIL convention, and actually they had a bunch of LSU. They had Libby Dunn there. They had the LSU, one of the attorneys in the LSU athletic department, Kiva Solar. She's a very, very bright young lady. And the House settlement actually was approved while we were there. So I sort of grilled her on a lot of questions as to how this is going to work, because as far as paying the players. And I guess the first question I asked her, a lot of questions she said to be determined. But one of the first questions I asked is, now, are the players who are going to receive direct payments from the school, are they going to be employees or not? And she said, to be determined.
Right.
And I said, well, they're going to be employees. It's just a matter of when. And that's one of the first issues that I thought was very interesting. And
well, sure. Well, you look at that with the NFL, right?
Right.
I mean, I'll never forget. We got a workers' comp claim when I was doing insurance defense work from a football player. Now, in Louisiana there was a statutory cap way back when. There's still a statutory cap in terms of how much you can collect on workers' comp, regardless of your salary. But all your medicals get paid, all that sort of thing. That things have changed since way.
Right.
Coming from your feed whenever Albert speaks. Is it coming from your computer or maybe your Commerce? Maybe it might be your Commerce.
That's one of the issues for sure. To me, I think it ought to move forward if they do it and not backwards. It's new and different, and maybe put some sort of window on it. I mean, how far back are you going to go pay? Newt Rockne,
no, 20,
and his family. I mean, how far back do you really go with NIL payments?
2016, I believe. I believe it's going to be 2016 as part of the settlement.
And why did they select that date? Was there
statute
of limitations or prescriptive period?
Probably so, because I think the judge just approved it. So it could be a statute of limitations or a cutoff date. For sure,
which would be 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So which is a pretty round number.
Yeah. So they have. So now, okay. On top of that, you talked about workers' comp, and that's what I asked. I asked the attorney, LSU attorney. I said, well, what about workers' compensation? And she said, to be determined. Here's another very interesting issue is medical treatment. What is the obligation of the school to provide medical treatment for a person who's injured, during a game? In other words, if they have a back issue or something that's going to be lifelong. I mean, what is the obligation to pay for that? And she said, to be determined. Another issue in the NFL, which I don't know a lot of people know, the proposal says they're going to be paid monthly. Okay, so the players will be paid monthly. Now, in the NFL, if you go play in California, you have to pay the California state tax for that particular game check. And so if you play in New York, you got to pay the state income tax in that state. So I'd asked if LSU plays in California, or like they did, or they play in another state, are they going to have to pay the state income tax in those particular states? She said,
right,
to be determined.
So it sounds like they don't have this worked out too far.
Well,
I mean, they got a basic framework, but
And that's my point. We just don't know how this is going to be implemented, as far as from a legal perspective, as far as the players are concerned. Um, you know, now you see, there's a whole new set of laws that apply now if you're an employee of a company. And I'll give you an example. This would be a very good example. Let's say that.
And it's going to change from state to state.
Right, right. Well, okay, let's say you're an LSU player, all right, and you have a $800,000 payment, a contract as part of the revenue share to play for LSU. All right, player gets a DWI or gets arrested at Fred's. All right, and is charged with assault. All right. Well, what is the termination clause on payment for the rest of the year? What constitutes cause and what doesn't constitute cause. If you don't get paid, there's another statute in Louisiana that says if you're entitled to wages and you're not paid on those wages, then they could be liable. The employer, if they're in bad faith, could be liable for attorney's fees and 90 days wages. So I mean, you have all kinds of, I guess, unanticipated issues you have to deal with in addressing the House settlement. And some of it can be dealt with legislatively, I guess, by making laws like exempting NIL athletes from, certain issues such as paying tax, state taxes and that sort of thing. But which I think there's a law maybe I'm not sure if there's one in Louisiana that was passed. I know there have been in some states. But then you're going to have states passing incentives so that players aren't taxed. Because, like, for example, I know when I was in the NFL, players hated going to play in California because they had a 16% state income tax. So they had to pay 16% of their game check to California, the People's Republic of California, when they had to play one game there.
And not just their income tax, federal income tax on that money.
That they also pay, right. So
Right.
So it'll be very interesting to see how all this shakes out. But it was very amusing because when we were sitting down, we had lunch together. I had these list of questions. She's like, "Will you please leave me alone?"
And again, just you get into the bar fight, right? Somebody says, "Oh, you're a terrible player. You suck. You're a terrible running back," and he gets
right. That's what I'm saying.
Is he in the course and scope of his employment? And now all of a sudden, is the employer liable for the fight because
That's right.
It had to do with his play on the field and LSU, and it was, I don't know. I mean, it just
it's just going to be a whole.
Yeah, so
it's going to be a whole host of issues.
Whole array of claims. I know we need to go to break. We'll talk more about this.
Okay.
I guess when we get back.
Okay, let's go to break. Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you Weekend Lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
As New Orleans as red beans and rice. WWL AM and FM.
The Baton Rouge Super Regional continues. LSU faces the West Virginia Mountain.
We're doing great on time.
Okay.
There is so much about this topic that we could spend 3 hours on.
Well, I know.
We're going
to go to the text. We're going to go to the text.
I'm at Evans.
Fine with me. Yeah, you guys can dive into that.
I'm going to let you read the text. You could start the one with
50. Big Wireless probably has you paying for
what, like LSU official partner with Caesars
Let's see.
or something like that?
a lifetime.
Let's
We're not here to
see.
be the biggest.
Let's
We're
go
here
to the
bring you
one.
something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage.
Hey
without
Cullen,
Big
the Hey
Wireless.
Cullen one first.
Oh, yeah, from Sam.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
I'll skip the Hey Cullen, welcome back. I'll do the it's not as much as the athletes that created this situation.
Right.
It's tricky, man. It really is. You guys were talking about it, and it's like, it the idea of the university's having to make these student athletes employees opens 1,000 cans of worms. It is so tricky.
Right, right.
Subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments.
You got insurance questions, and you've got situations regarding like someone who's gonna who's someone who picked to go to LSU over Alabama simply because Alabama might pay him more money, but LSU would pay for any insurance stuff he has if he gets injured. And there's that's just insane to me.
There to help you.
I'm wondering if they're going to start having trades.
Call 985-72.
That's too much. That's well, but then again, like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have told you if I was in middle school and you said, "Hey, in 10 years, not only are players going to be making money, colleges are going to be allowed to pay players directly." I'd have been like, "Come on, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen. That's insane." So I could see it. It'd be insane, but we're already past where I thought the line was drawn.
Tax Resolution is here to help. Call 985-722-1040.
We've gone beyond where I thought the boundaries were. So no reason to see why we can't go further beyond where I think the boundaries are now.
Yep.
Resolution.com.
Where should you spend this summer? At Hooters, of course.
Great for business, though.
It's for our new
Yep,
$9.99
that's what I'm doing.
specials.
That's going to be our
available Monday through Friday
next.
11 to 2. Choose from Baja shrimp
After
tacos,
conquering the hurricane
quarter-pound
market,
cheeseburger,
we'll
or wings
do the
tossed in your
NIL
favorite
market.
Hooter sauce, all served with fries. Plus, don't miss Kids Eat Free on
But yeah,
Mondays
let's
at
go through the
Hooters.
text. And we
Hooters
can...
has everything you're craving. All
I could do that one, and then I could do my son just graduated from Purdue.
Right. And this.
Someone texted in.
Do we?
Partner with Caesars Sportsbook. No threat to ethical integrity there.
Well, I have a story about that too.
For over worth of damage in Louisiana alone. For over 60 years, J&J Exterminating has been shielding homes and businesses. 100% guaranteed against termites, pests, and mosquitoes. Louisiana-owned, customer-focused. J&J Exterminating.
Call them today, make pests go.
If you wanted to do NBA Finals stuff, there is a Finals game. Game 2 is tonight. We can do that later in the next hour.
I think it's one of the best finals as far as two teams.
More of an underdog
Right.
Cinderella run than what the
Pacers. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
For the oil and gas industry, as well as for the power, utility, and bulk material handling markets.
What I'm really excited about is that the Starting Five documentary that Netflix had last year, the Starting Five documentary this year covers, I want to say it covers Tyrese Halliburton, SGA, Kevin Durant, Jaylen Brown, and I think one more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give me a documentary that ends with SGA and Halliburton playing each other in the finals, I can't wait to see how Halliburton handled all of the chaos he's had this postseason.
Right here in Louisiana.
They are the living embodiment of the team of destiny.
It's just
life insurance.
Smart management, really.
Hassle. Think you don't
getting good players for good prices.
Life insurance. But if you weren't there, who
got players who play a role and they fit in.
Perfectly. It's almost like
yeah.
It's almost you see what they've done and you have to assume it's luck at some point.
Policies as low
or
as
vision.
It goes beyond luck. You're like, wait, you can't get this lucky this
vision.
times in a
Vision. Yeah.
.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months.
Yeah, the only NFL news that we got was the only NFL stuff that we have is big news-wise was Rodgers signing with the Steelers.
Protecting our people, liberty,
do that later.
By default.
From cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
God, you got some long. It's almost 6 minutes of commercials.
All things legal on WWL AM FM.
It was a 5-minute break. It was a beefy break.
Yeah.
Connect with Doug Sinceri.
That's why I was saying the breaks are a little longer today because we're used to like 3.5.
Right.
04-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sinceri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. All right, I got to plug us a little bit. We actually signed. Well, we were hired by Amir Khan, and Amir is the student manager from McNeese State under Will Wade, who had the big boom box, who would lead the team out to the locker room, and he already has $100,000 plus of NIL contracts, and we're going to work with him to only in America could you be a student manager getting NIL contracts. So great kid, great kid. Love a great family. His father, Dr. Akbar Khan. They're out of Lake Charles. Just wonderful family, and I'm just so happy for Amir. And he's deciding where he's going to go. I think he's just. I can't. I think I know where he's going, but we're not at liberty to disclose. But I think he's going to transfer himself. He entered the student manager transfer portal, so he's going to go too. But he ultimately wants to be a coach. So hopefully we'll take him all the way to being a head coach one day. Let's go to text. Colin, why don't you read a couple of texts on NIL?
Yeah, guys, got one from Sam texting in saying it's not as much that the athletes that created the situation as it is the money-hungry entrepreneurs who see it as an opportunity for profit.
As Coach Dale Brown said 40 years ago, there was a great inequity. And yes, if the NCAA would have gotten out ahead of this and done some type of allocation of the revenue in a constructive fashion, this would have never happened. But as we know, one of the big axioms, Albert, in our business is pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And I tell you what, the NCAA has gotten slaughtered. And they probably are going to serve no function after this is all over, because the schools, the schools are like, we don't need you, we can do it on our own. And I think that's where the Power Five is heading.
But, well, I mean, can they really?
Yes.
Who's going to regulate? Who's going to regulate?
No, they're going to get their own arm to regulate, and that's part of the House settlement.
Yeah.
Is the Power Five is going to have its own enforcement arm that they can sort of have some control over, rather than that. Coach Brown used to refer to the NCAA in very harsh terms. I don't want to repeat them, but they had no accountability. And I think what the House settlement says is that they're going to have their own enforcement arm that is going to have some accountability also, and some input on the enforcement. Also, Deloitte accounting firm has been hired to sort of assess some of these possible NIL deals to make sure that they're not pay for play, but fair market value deals as far as apparel and the NIL branding deals that they have. So that's interesting. What else do we have, Colin, on this?
Someone was chiming in and saying, my son just graduated from Purdue as a pitcher. He was injured during the season and opted not to have a needed surgery. They agreed to pay for the surgery for a period of 2 years.
I think that underscores one of the issues that we talked about, workers' comp, Albert. If they're going to be paid by the employees, and you could comment this, they're not going to be independent contractors, right?
Yeah, well, I think what's going to end up happening, Doug, is for every player and every manager and anyone who might be subjected to the NIL guidelines will have a written contract.
Right.
And I just think that each player will have their own separate written contract that's going to define the terms, and they will be all over the board, school to school, player to player, and at some point, the people that are representing the players will develop a more standardized.
Well, yeah, and
that the players are going to need to, abide by.
And our friend Kiva, who's at the conference, I asked her, I said, how are you going to deal with the contracts? And I think what she says, we're going to go to an NFL model where we're going to develop a standard contract that they have standard terms that may be uniform among all the schools. And then you will have another sheet of the aspects that may deviate from the standard contract or for incentives and pay. So basically you'll have a standard form contract, and then you'll have the second sheet for incentives. Now, I asked her about this. What about buyouts? If you sign a 2-year contract, or are they going to, and you want to go to the transfer portal, how's that going to work?
Right.
It's another issue. She said, to be determined. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting, I guess, issues that we're going to talk about. And I think we got some more text, but let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your Weekend Lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
Get the WWL shows you love delivered to your phone free. Download the Odyssey app.
Yeah, no, these breaks we're good. These breaks are a little longer than we're used to, so I'm trying to take breaks earlier than we're used to kind of balance it out.
WWL.
Okay.
I could do I could close it out with the LSU official partner with Caesars Sportsbook. Give you something to chew on right there at the end.
Yeah.
Smarter bet.
And then next hour we can get to like legal talk that isn't sports related.
Well, I don't know. It seems like we're doing pretty good. Do you have another text about do we have high school athletes hiring agents?
Dudley DeBosier injury.
Yeah, because Sam was asking that. I feel like we do. No.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And then someone said, "Are cheerleaders included?"
Yeah, you can. Cheerleaders can get NIL contracts. Yes. Ask me that. Ask me that next hour.
Okay. Yeah. But here's another thing. It's like that opens up, and that prompts me for 17 more questions, which is how far does
I could explain that to you.
How far does the fallout spread to things that surround students?
That's what I'm saying. That's just like a mirror.
We're locally owned, and we're giving back.
I mean,
are student reporters considered employees now that work for the newspaper that the school has? What about announcers, play-by-play?
So shop Premier Automotive, where we
go.
I
have an explanation for that.
Premier Honda.
So yeah.
Back in about 2.5 minutes. I think we'll have about 3 to 4 minutes here.
Okay, let's.
Which one do you want here? Which text? The cheerleaders one or the sportsbook joke?
Dreamsanddriveways.com.
Cheerleaders one might be a bit more deep, so we could leave that.
Sportsbook.
Plus.
Okay, I could do that. I could do that.
Close about.
Specific neurodegenerative disease.
And then we'll do our top of the hour news break, and then when we open next hour, you guys can talk a little bit more sports or dive right back into this. I'll be ready for either.
Yeah, I think
Health Today.
Well,
challenge your mind by learning new
we
skills
talk about
exercising more. It's never too
boring stuff. I know. I mean, this is. I mean, we're getting a lot of activity from this.
12 locations and.
I found the article, the exact segment or section that you were talking about with who's going to be controlling this in the TBS article. The power conferences are expected to soon announce the College Sports Commission,
yes,
an organization tasked to oversee the settlements, terms, and enforce new rules. Power conferences hired Deloitte and LBI, major players in revenue management for professional sports, to develop software to dissect NIL deals and track players' revenue-sharing contracts.
Right.
This message brought to you by...
Any deal over 600 will go through a new clearinghouse called NIL Go.
Easy and entitled.
Well, hello to you too, Grandpa. Ever since we started using E3 Industrial Staffing, we've had no problem finding safe, reliable...
Do you think this is better for the sport? Is it a rising tide raises all boats? Is it better for the sport? Is it better for the players? Is there anybody that is a downright loser?
Ask me that question next hour. But my answer is this: before they had the antitrust lawsuits on the television coverage, you only had 1 or 2 games a week. And then when they had antitrust litigation, said you can't confine NCAA coverage to, it's a monopoly. They thought when they started televising all these games like on ESPN, Fox and all, that it would dilute the game and it would ruin it. Instead, it made it more popular. So you sort of don't know, but
what I was referring to is just like we're talking about like who's gonna. It sounds like everyone's gonna be making money from this, but if everyone's making money from this, I hate to say it, it sounds like someone will be losing money. So if there is a winner at the end of the day, who's losing? Who is this most gonna hurt?
Ew. Or the
I think it's gonna hurt the 18-year-old players who can't handle the money.
To feel certain of
Possibly. We're coming back. I'm gonna do LSU music, no rejoins, so you can just take away whatever.
guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. California Psychics. Call 1-800-PREDICT today and get 20 minutes for just $20.
Hey, hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you weekend lawyers, all things legal. We started talking about NIL and the legal implications of NIL. And Colin, you have another text.
Yeah, Sam chimed in even earlier this morning when we first started the discussion saying LSU, the official partner with Caesars Sportsbook, no threat to ethical integrity there.
I'll tell you something interesting that's changed. About 35 years ago when I was an agent at the NFL, they told us to stay away from casinos. They told us to stay away from gamblers. Don't give an appearance. And they were very, very discouraged. In fact, we went to a fight, one of the old Tyson fights, and we saw Jimmy Johnson with one of our players. And Jimmy Johnson's like, man, he's talking about, I got the memo to not be very visible in casinos. And so a lot has changed over the last 35 years. They were like, in fact, they didn't want to move a franchise to Las Vegas for the longest time because of that reason. They were, they said we don't want to be in a city that has gambling. So in 35 years, that's changed. And most of the teams have casinos that sponsor them, and the college teams too. So I think they just have a different view of it, Albert. It's just things change.
It's kind of the sign of the times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember way back when I was talking to somebody about it, and they were saying,
got about a minute here.
If you're in Vegas and you got a big wad of cash, it's not a big deal. But if you're here in New Orleans, and you got a wad of cash, you can get beat over the head for it. And if once those casinos come here, it's going to be showgirls, and everything else is going to now kind of start slipping away with the dancers and the night strip clubs and all that kind of thing. I'm not
30 seconds.
Mr. Strip clubs, but it's just become more prevalent and more out in the open, and it's kind of a reflection of the society. But yeah, I hate to see in the middle of a free throw at a
15.
And, they break to one of these betting sites saying, okay, you can still bet this game. Go to this site and bet this game.
Yeah.
And the game has started,
all right,
and the players are right in the middle of it, right?
Folks, stay tuned. National news, local news, back in 10.
WWL New Orleans, 105.3.
You're clear, you're good.
FM and HD1 Canada New Orleans, and Odyssey Station.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Wendy Gillette. For 2 days, protesters have clashed with ICE agents in the LA area, but this morning it's peaceful, according to the LAPD. This man was among the demonstrators.
They're trying to criminalize people that are working class, people that are the backbone of this country.
CBS News correspondent Bradley Blackburn has more on a Trump-ordered troop deployment.
The president authorized this deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops yesterday, using authority that he's used previously to send troops to the U.S. border. Sources tell CBS News the majority of the troops are from California National Guard, and our affiliate, KCBS, says that those Guard troops are already arriving.
California Governor Gavin Newsom opposes the move, saying online it's purposefully inflammatory and will escalate tensions. LA Mayor Karen Bass is also critical.
Los Angeles can handle things. We do not need to have federal intervention.
Talks between China and the U.S. resume again this week in London. Discussions last month in Geneva, Switzerland, led to a 90-day suspension of most tariffs imposed by both countries on each other. A new CBS News poll finds the majority of Americans are not fans of the Trump administration's tariffs. CBS Deputy Director of Elections and Surveys, Jennifer DePinto.
There continues to be public opposition to tariffs. 59% oppose new tariffs on imported goods, as most Americans think they will lead to higher prices in the short run, and many think that'll be the case in the long run, too. Most do think the president is trying to help U.S. manufacturing and businesses with his trade and tariff policies, but even more say he's trying to help the wealthy.
A freight train has rolled into Washington, D.C., carrying tanks ahead of President Trump's Army Anniversary Parade this Saturday. The event coincides with his birthday. 6,500 troops, 150 vehicles, and 50 aircraft are expected to take part in the parade. Prince William spoke at this year's United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice, France, on World Oceans Day.
With creativity, ingenuity, investment, and support, we can unlock exciting innovations and solutions that protect our planet, create jobs, sustain livelihoods, and encourage prosperity. This challenge is like none that we have faced before. But I remain an optimist. I believe that urgency and optimism have the power to bring about the action needed to change the course of history.
The prince is a longtime supporter of environmental projects. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
WWL First News. I'm Ian Ozan on your official weather station, WWL.
Happy Sunday. It's going to be very hot and humid today with high temperatures in the low 90s with our heat index near 110 degrees. Make sure you stay cool and hydrated and take those breaks in the shade. We'll see a mix of sunshine and clouds today with a couple hit or miss showers and storms in the afternoon and early evening.
WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trischler has a full look at the forecast coming up in just a moment. When the LSU Tigers are hot, they are hot.
Milam swings in the air, right field way. Reinhardt coming over, and this one is gone! Dropped into the diamond deck. Several rows up. Stephen Milam with a grand slam.
Chris Blair on WWL. That was one of 2 grand slams belted by the Tigers in their 16-9 rout of West Virginia in Game 1 of the Baton Rouge Super Regional. A win today puts LSU in the College World Series. First pitch of Game 2 set for 5 o'clock right here on WWL.
All right.
More coming up in sports.
So, we're opening with the cheerleaders question or sports? What do you want to do here?
The agent and the cheerleader.
An EMS crew.
The agent and the cheerleader. Okay. I'll do the agent one first. Do we have high school athletes hiring agents yet? Are cheerleaders included in that analysis? Let's see. Sam texted back in. Sam is very vocal this morning. I think when we started allowing NCAA players into the Olympics, we witnessed the onset of the disease that has been killing amateur athletics. NIL seems to be the coup de grace, and the sports that have become the playground of all levels of athletics. Changes just keep on coming. And then once we're finally done with sports plus legal talk, someone texted in some contractor questions for Al.
Yeah, we'll get that.
To the wall. It's gone!
I don't know about the questions. Are these 2 different questions?
Here's a
They look good. They probably are.
for West Virginia in Game 1 of their Super Regional. Pitcher.
Is the last 2 questions, are they 2 separate questions, or is it the same question just worded 2 different ways?
No, I think it's
Is 1099 about getting sued, or is 1099 about something else?
A 1099 is a independent contractor in getting
WWL
basically
sports.
when
A few other quick sports notes.
you're
Sovereignty outlasts journalism to win the Belmont Stakes.
you're not an employee, but you pay. It's income that you pay both the Social Security on both ends of your Social Security. So in other words, you get when you get paid at Intercom. Intercom pays half your Social Security, you pay half. But if you're an independent contractor, you pay all your own
temperatures will get near 110 degrees.
Social Security.
What I'm asking is, when you want me to read that out, do you want me to read both and then you take both, or do you want me to read one answer and then read the other?
One, just one.
Just one. So
yeah.
they're the same thing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Just one at a time, separately.
Okay.
With gusty winds, lightning, and heavier showers. Tuesday, plan for some heavy rain and maybe some street flooding Tuesday. From WWL Louisiana, I'm meteorologist Alexa Trischler.
Thank you, Alexa. And a reminder, Game 2 of the Baton Rouge Super Regional between LSU and West Virginia. 4:30 pregame, 5 o'clock first pitch, right here on the Big 870 and 105.3 FM, WWL, and the Odyssey app. I'm Ian Ozan, WWL First News. Have a wonderful Sunday.
From WWL, the news, talk, sports powerhouse of the Gulf South, it's All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Ocean Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870, or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back for hour number 2. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call, 260-1870. We've been talking about the House versus the NCAA settlement and how that's going to affect college sports. And it's, in essence, probably going to turn it into a new pro league where it's going to be, in essence, another league that's probably just like the NFL, except it's for colleges. And so it'll be interesting. Things are always changing, and I
think if they do that, Doug, I think they need to do something about the transfer portal, right? Okay, look, we're going to pay you, and I'm going to invest in you, and you're going to leave me in a year. That's the problem with it all. You're telling me I got to give up 22% of my revenues to pay NIL players, and now all of a sudden, you're going to hit the road and go play for some other college. I need my investment, and I think that was, that's what Nick Saban's big complaint about was. I can recruit a kid, I just can't recruit him for 3 years.
Here's the difference. Under the NIL collective system, you were not contracting directly with the university. So what the university would say is, we can get you an NIL deal for X amount of money. And then the collective, which is not officially affiliated with this university, it's a nonprofit, pays them the money. So they might tell the boosters, we need $500,000 for this player, donate it to the collective, and the collective would play. So you were not contracting directly with the university. It was more like on the honor system. And so part of the transfers, like we're transferring because when they signed with the team, the collectives didn't pay what they were told during the recruiting process, and they had some cases that had some litigation regarding that. So you really wasn't contracting directly with the university. Now you will be contracting with the university. So I was told by the LSU attorney that some teams are signing multi-year contracts with buyouts. So theoretically, now this has to do with your competitive advantage, because I'm sure if you're the agent, you're like, you don't want a 3-year contract because you'd rather have that 1-year contract,
sure,
because you get your biggest raises in between contracts. So that's going to be part of the competitive, whether you can get a player to agree to a multi-year contract, especially a top player. But some colleges are signing multi-year contracts, and if you leave, you have to be bought out, either with a buyout provision, or you have to buy out the remaining, whatever's defined to be bought out.
Buying out the remaining portion of the contract is not.
Well,
I don't think that's as big a deal. I mean, you're going to leave, so you're not going to be entitled to
Right,
it.
right.
So if somebody just buys that out, that's not going to be unless there's guaranteed money. I don't know.
Well, also too that there's a provision in there. You could have a penalty provision saying if you leave before the 3 years, you have to pay us back X, because we invested money in your education, we invested money in your in your development, we invested a lot of, and
right.
There will be a different dynamic to it, because you're going to be contracting directly with the universities. In fact, when I asked the LSU attorney, are they going to be collectives? She said that's up in the air. They may not be any collectives anymore, and they may just go away, because you can't have the collectives now pay to play with the revenue share. All the collectives can do is maybe you just can't. So you're going back to the two sources of payment: the revenue share and your NIL for hawking, using your image to brand and being paid to market a product. So those are going to be the two revenue streams, and your revenue stream will not be from the collectives. And that's what was posing the problem, is you sort of did it with a wink, saying if you come here, we'll pay you $500,000 from the collective, but it wasn't contractually obligated to. It was just saying we will do that, and it was basically on the honor system. So
right.
So that's going to
and I guess you can divide it up too, right? So if I'm Livy Dunn, right, and I'm competing with LSU, right, in the gymnastic field, but I'm all of a sudden get a lucrative contract for some sportswear. So that would be separate and apart from
That's what
anything having to do with the university.
But
so that you can keep and take
right,
with you.
That's
but,
right. But the university can't guarantee that.
Think it's, exactly.
Well,
and, of course, that's just.
Well, funny you brought up Livy.
Popularity in your name, like name, image, and likeness, being utilized by corporate America to sell their product.
I'll tell you interesting. We met with Livy Thursday in Charlotte. We had a meeting with her, and this is very interesting, and she had a very interesting story. What happened with Livy was, and to me, everybody was calling her Livy. I was saying that's Paul Skeen's girlfriend, and so that's I got in trouble for that though. But what she did was she heard rumblings back in 17 and 18 and 19 about the House lawsuit, and she understood the possible implications. So she had the foresight to build her social media following before the House settlement, before the verdict, I believe. And so she had maybe hundreds of thousands of followers when most other college students didn't. And so when the House settlement or verdict came and they were able to do NIL about 4 years ago, she already had 1 million followers. So she took those million followers and went to companies and said, look, you don't have to waste your advertising on people. Like, for example, if you advertise on TV, maybe 95% of the people who are watching that commercial don't need your product. So you're paying a lot of airtime or a lot of cost for people who aren't interested in your product. But for me, if you advertise products that are demographically based for college students or young women from 18 to 26, the dollar you spend with me is going to target all the the target markets there. So that's how she developed her brand, was the products that she was representing. Or she had a market of 1 million followers right when this broke out, and she already had that audience there. So all the companies came to her to advertise on her social media as an influencer, and they were it was a good deal for both because she made a lot of money. I think she's cleared over $10 million in NIL, and then also the companies could target their brand to a consumer base that would consume that product. You wasn't wasting a lot of money. Wasn't a lot of advertising dollars that were going to markets that weren't interested in their product. But she had foresaw the House settlement and the 2 or 3 years to the House verdict, and for that 2 or 3 years, she figured out, if I have 1 million followers, and that's what she worked on, they're going to come. I can go to them, and they're going to advertise with me, and then I can take off. So she was the forerunner of. She got it before everybody else got it. Is basically what happened. It's an amazing story, and she's very entrepreneurial, and she's continuing to parlay that, and so but that's in essence.
The fact that she's pretty attractive had a lot to do with it too, right?
Yeah, and you could ask Paul Skeens that too, also. But now, and this was, I think, Colin, you had a question that we're going to lead to about NIL, about a cheerleader? What was that?
We did, yeah. Someone texted in, and this is about the NIL stuff, and I guess kind of just how far student employment as well as money they rake in, where do they fall under the umbrella? Someone texted in and just said, are cheerleaders included, just outright?
Okay, the cheerleaders aren't included in the rev share, only athletes. But if you're an athlete in a non-revenue sport or you're a cheerleader, you can get NIL contracts. And it's all based on two things: the number of followers you have and how often you're willing to post, your consistency of posting, and your creativity in posting. So, yes, 100%. If you're a cheerleader at LSU and you build up your social media following, once you get in this, 10,000 above, if you get over 100,000, you're definitely going to get an NIL contract. And you post consistently, you will get an NIL contract or NIL opportunity, and you would be able to make substantial money. Because again, colleges are paying influencers on campus to sell product. So, the type of products that college students buy, anywhere from smoothies to clothing, apparel, backpacks, sunglasses, they're paying students who have who are influencers, who have a lot of followers. So if you're a non-revenue athlete, which or you're somehow associated as a cheerleader or like Amir as a student manager, you also have the opportunity to make NIL money based on the companies looking to employ, quote, influencers. And a lot of those are in athletics. So 100% yes, you can do that. It's just, again, followers, content of your, the quality of your content that you put on social media and how often you post it. But one of the things that they were talking about, and Livy Dunn was talking about, that's a job. She said she had 3 jobs: gymnastics, school, and posting content. And she really didn't have time to do anything else. So it's a job in itself, but it's a job that you can make money. So there you go. So very, 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 very interesting. I think we have another text calling on this.
The agents one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam texted in as well and was asking. I can't tell if it's joke or tongue. I feel like it's kind of both.
Both.
Do we have high school athletes hiring agents yet?
Yes. Absolutely.
I texted back and told him that we probably have middle schoolers getting agents right now.
Yes. Well, and there's a couple of strategies that they're doing. Again, the players are building up their social media following so that they could be an outlet for advertising. And also, too, with the revenue share, you're going to have a traditional free agency in the sense of, like in pro football, in the sense that you're going to need an agent for 2 things. 1, to negotiate the compensation, and 2, to negotiate the structure of the compensation. So it's basically how much, and then you're going to have a standard contract that the teams are going to, the college is going to have, but also too, you got issues regarding the length of the agreement, the termination clause. When can the teams pay you, not pay you? Is it based on academic performance? Can they terminate it for lack of academic performance? Can they terminate it due to a traffic ticket? Can they terminate it? So yes, it's going to be some transactions going to be $1 million. So yes, they're going to need agents, attorneys, agents, and we had that discussion this week. Agents are more promoters, which is good, but they're not attorneys. Now, some agents are attorneys. I was an attorney when I was an agent, and Cameron, he's going to be an agent. He's one of our attorneys in our office. He's an attorney first, but he's also going to negotiate the contracts. I personally think that since there's not so many legal issues involving employment law, workers' comp law, disability, payment of taxes in other states, all those issues, I think you really need probably more of an attorney than an agent to negotiate this. because a lot of things are undefined, and you're going to need some attorneys who have foresight as to what the potential problems can be, and also structuring the contract that in a way that you can, protect the player's interests. Because as soon as you become unproductive, as you're in the real world now, you're going to be obsolete. And when you become obsolete, the university is going to seek to minimize or mitigate the payment to you. So, it's just like any other negotiation, except these are 18-year-old kids instead of, 40-year-old, negotiating their deals in business. So, very interesting dynamic. So, let's take a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you Weekend Lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
WWL, home of the new.
I wanted to break because we had a couple text messages roll in that are not NIL, NCAA focused. So it'd be nice to kind of get a break.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, we'll take a
Alex Box Stadium, the Tigers versus
the insurance one that we had. Since it's two questions, but they're asking the same thing. Are you 100% open to being sued if one gets hurt in your property, and then the 1099 question, which one would you rather me say? Like, which is the one that words it better?
Okay.
Bobby Aber, KJ Cannon here.
No, I'm asking. Like, do you know which one would you rather me say?
Props for the NBA Finals starting up this week. And now you can make the smarter play with new performance training.
You said it was the 985, the 4145 question. It's the 1099, and then they also ask about the 100%. Is it two ways to ask the same question?
Are you 100% being sued?
A chance to win big.
No, those are two different
If you don't
questions.
already have FanDuel.
Two different questions. Two different questions.
Well, we can do this. And then obviously we got an insurance question. Like,
we're going to go to other.
$5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Hebert. That's HEBERT to join today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and WWL Radio.
21 plus and present.
All right. What music do you want to hear? You still just want LSU?
Acquired bonuses. Non-withdrawable bonus.
Still want LSU? I can find some other stuff. I can find some baseball music, something. We could do some Bruce Springsteen baseball music.
How about
Call 1-877-770-7867.
what's it, center field?
7867.
Tired of those
That's John Fogerty.
fees every time you're dumped.
John Fogerty?
Is it center field? Center field?
Yeah.
From the largest shipyard in the country.
Oh, how about this? This is offbeat. Take me out to the ball game.
I can do that. I can find it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Smashing waste and costs throughout the Gulf South. We'll show you how much you'll save with our Smash Calculator. To book a free demo, visit SmashMyTrash.com.
Come on down to the Silver Slipper. Silver Slipper says, let the good times boil. Where every Sunday through Thursday, now through June, you can win a Supreme Bayou Classic Boiling Pot set. Earn entries every Sunday through Thursday with drawings held those nights at 7 p.m. So join us Sunday through Thursday in June and earn your chance to take home a Bayou Classic Boiling Pot set. Let the good times boil. Here at the Silver Slipper Casino, right here on the beach in Hancock County, where we're proud to be your host on the coast.
Have a good time at the Silver Slipper. This is Ian Ozan. Going to the dentist shouldn't leave you filled with anxiety. In fact, you should feel relaxed at your dentist's office. That's why you should see my friends at Terry Dental Aesthetics, Julia Street at Rampart in downtown New Orleans. It's the perfect combination of a spa.
I got it. We're good to go.
Office, and Dr. Terry and his crew will take care of all of your needs, from basic exams and cleanings to tooth whitening, Invisalign, veneers, Botox, dermal fillers, and more. So give them a call at 504-446-1011 or book now at terryaesthetics.com.
Hi, I'm Doug Sunseri with the new Sunseri Law Firm and host of All Things Legal on Sunday mornings on WWL, AM, FM, and .com.
And I'm Michelle Demarest Sunseri. Let the Sunseri Law Firm help you with your estate, probate, family, and business issues.
And I'm their daughter, attorney Katie Sunseri, and we do make the complex understandable.
Call Doug and Katie at our Metairie office at 504-214-9111.
Or you can call me, the boss lady, in Mandeville at 985-624-9697.
Katie, tell everyone who's really the boss.
I'm taking the fifth on that one.
The success you've had in life matters. The late nights, the extra shifts, the moments you've stood up and said, I've got this. At University of Maryland Global Campus, we value your achievements because we're a school for real life. With UMGC, you can earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's for prior learning and relevant life and work experience, or transfer up to 12 credits toward a master's. We offer scholarships, affordable tuition, and online and hybrid classes, all with the support you need from your first day to graduation day and beyond. As an accredited state university, we've been transforming lives for over 75 years. Choose from more than 135 undergraduate and graduate degrees and certificates, and get ready to succeed again. Get an affordable online skills-based education to move your career forward. UMGC offers no-cost digital materials in place of textbooks in most courses. Low-cost tuition and over $21 million in scholarship opportunities each aid year. Find out if you qualify at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
Now, more All Things Legal, underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. All advice given and opinion shared are solely those of attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri. Back to WWL.
It's a shame, so it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
All right. We're heading to Omaha. One more game to go. All right. Before one last thing about NIL, which I think ultimately is going to happen before we get into the other text, is I think there'll eventually be unionization between the athletes and the schools, where you would have all the issues collectively bargained as far as employment, workers' comp, taxes, NIL, all that, decided in a way, in a salary cap, in essence. So I think that's going to be the ultimate result in 5-10 years. In between, it's going to be like the Wild West as far as all these items that are undefined. So one last thing too, I was talking to the LSU attorney. They're starting to use the same software that the Saints use for their salary cap, because with the revenue share, they're going to have a cap, and they need that software to figure out, well, how much money do we have left if we sign this player or if we don't sign this player.
Are you sure? Are they sure they want to use the same software that the Saints use?
The NFL. How about that?
Maybe some other team.
Yeah.
But the salary cap issue. Maybe the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, I think they're going to probably want to use the one that the Eagles use, the software program. So yes, there you go. Okay. Colin, we got some more text. What you got that's not NIL related?
Yeah, we're switching it up. Someone texted in, Albert, this is up your alley. Can you explain how the 1099 system works when paying subcontractors on job sites if you're not a contractor?
There you go.
Okay, so so let's say you're not a contractor, you're a homeowner, and you want to hire contractors, subcontractors, whatever, to come to your house and do work. The question is, are they, or can they be considered your employee? And so there's a list of questions.
Did you mute yourself or something?
To be answered, and it's all fact-based, and there are probably 17 or 20 of them that, in fact, the IRS uses, and a lot of courts have adopted that litmus test as to whether or not you're considered a 1099 employee. I'm sorry, whether or not you're considered an employee or whether you're considered a 1099 third-party contractor. And they range from things like, number one, is there a written contract? Number two, does the person work exclusively for you? Number three, do they have their own tools and equipment? Number four, how much direction?
Assuming you muted yourself while you were finishing off your take. Gotcha.
Insurance. So, I mean, there's just...
Sit up a sec. You're off, so give me a mic check real quick.
And the more...
Test.
I
got you. You're good. You're off the air. I turned your mic off. I'm going to turn your mic back on right now.
An independent contractor. Beware, and people do it all the time. If you are the owner of a home and you hire somebody to come clean your gutters, just somebody off the street, and they fall off the ladder and, injure their back and break their leg, unless it's a third party company with insurance, with a contract, if you're just paying them hourly, they are your employee. And for workers' comp purposes, you are responsible for paying their wages, or percentage of their wages, and you're responsible for paying their medical bills until they're better and can go back to doing what they were doing. So, be very, very careful when you hire people to come do work at your home. You go to Lowe's or Home Depot and maybe pick somebody up, or you just hire somebody off the street, that has a business, Joe Handyman Company. He not licensed, not insured. If you're paying that person by the hour, they're your employee, and it's a tough situation. But I know, Doug, you had a case where you were trying to fight that on behalf of someone, and it was really not a whole lot you could do to,
No.
You just had to go through the test.
And the homeowner had to deal with it in a very consequential fashion, monetarily. And it happens after disasters a lot of times, because you have people from out of state, you have undocumented workers or contractors who even hire undocumented workers who don't have insurance, and
right,
and it's a bad deal. It's a scary deal, and you got to be very, very careful. Albert, one of the things you can maybe talk about, even if a contractor has a certificate of insurance, you may want to do some due diligence to make sure they have the insurance.
No question. And because we've seen that before where they purchased insurance in the past, right? So they have a certificate of insurance they can give to you. And, unless you really read it and look at it, but what I would do is if it's someone you've never heard of, it's no referral, it's just somebody you might have gotten off the internet or some, Facebook post or something, double check, because there will be an agent's name and phone number on that certificate of insurance. Call the agency and say, hey, look, I got this certificate of insurance. I want to make sure, number one, is it legit? Number two, or do they still have coverage, or has their coverage expired? I've asked people, do you have insurance? Yeah. So what kind of insurance you have? Oh, well, I have insurance on my truck. Well, no, that's not what I'm talking about. So, those are the kinds of things you need to ensure they have. And look, also you can go to you could just type in Louisiana Contractors Board and it'll get you there, but it's Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. And then you get to the home page and you will see find a contractor, and you click on it, type in the name of the contractor. They're either supposed to have a home improvement certificate, which means anything over $7,500 up to $50,000. That's changed, everyone. It used to be up to $75,000. Now it's up to $50,000 is the maximum. So any contract above that, they have to be a licensed residential contractor, which is a whole separate endeavor and testing and things like that. Or they would have to be a commercial contractor, which means they can do residential work, again, up to $50,000. Anything above that, which I thought was kind of crazy. I talked to one of the compliance directors over at the board, and I said, do you mean to tell me that if I'm hiring someone and they are a commercial contractor with a specialty in roads and bridges, you're going to let them go do $50,000 worth of work on somebody's home with no, code proof of any code knowledge or any knowledge of residential construction? They said, yeah, that's kind of what the law says. So I'm not a fan of it, but it allows people to get a commercial license. Believe it or not, commercial contractors don't even need to have insurance. Now they do, because most people in the commercial industry that are, the owners are sophisticated enough to make sure that they do have it, and they have a written contract requiring it. But just anybody that, oh yeah, I'm licensed, here's my license number. We can find out what kind of.
We can still fit in the other question.
As a residential contractor, or at least have a home improvement certificate and have insurance.
Okay, we've got another question, Colin.
They
for
followed
Albert.
up and kind of building on that. You might have touched on it already, Albert. They just said, are you 100% open to being sued if one gets hurt on your property?
No. So if you are if it's just some visitor, right, and you've got a crack in the sidewalk
Probably break and then come back and do the next one.
up to your home. If you know about it, it's there, it's open and obvious, and you get into some comparative fault issues, which you can be sued for that. But if you have, for instance, a water heater, and it leaks on someone's property, let's say, okay, but you don't know about that defect that it might have. They would have to prove that you knew or should have known of the defect and failed to correct it. And so, if there's some defect in your home that you're unaware of, I'm just a homeowner, I live here every day, but I didn't know that the termites had eaten my floor, and somebody comes along and steps through the floor of your raised home and they hurt themselves. Well, I have a termite contract, but I have, my floors are eaten up by termites. They stepped in a soft spot. Yes, can they sue you? Anybody can sue you for anything, but is the likelihood of them recovering? That's a whole other issue, because they would have to prove that you knew or should have known of the defect and failed to correct it.
Okay. So basically, on those type of cases, if you have a visitor, you'd have to have a defect. The defect would be unreasonably dangerous, that the homeowner should have knew or should have known of the defect, and it was the cause of the accident. And so, usually in those scenarios, trying to demonstrate that the owner knew or should have known of the defect is the hurdle you have to get over most of the time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
WWL.
I'm
home
gonna step
of
out.
Scoot on the Air. Always the free Odyssey app.
It's Dad's time to score. Show the dad in your life a little love. How about a $1,500 shopping spree at Macy's, just in time for Father's Day? New kicks, fresh fits, or the latest gadgets. Whatever he wants, it's all at Macy's. It's a special prize for a special man. Head to WWL.com for your chance to win. This is a national contest. Good luck and happy Father's Day from Macy's and WWL.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Connected TV is one of the most effective channels for driving measurable advertising results. That's because when your customer's not scrolling, they're streaming. Let Viant put your ads right where they are, on the best content, across the most premium platforms in the world. We're talking real consumers, big screens, big outcomes. With Viant, you get people-based targeting, AI-powered performance, and full access to inventory
Let's
built
see,
to seize
Colin, do we have some more text?
Viant, where premium streaming meets performance. Visit Viant.ai to unlock real results today.
Did you underestimate your tax liability?
Colin?
Receive tax notices from the IRS? Don't let your situation get out of control.
Colin.
Call Go Tax Resolution, your local tax professionals, to help you or your clients get back on track. 985-722-1040. That's 985-722-1040. Or reach out to us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Hi, this is Sam with Go Tax Resolution. Are you overwhelmed with tax notices and don't know where to turn? Well, Go Tax Resolution has former IRS agents that specialize in tax and will find the best solution for you. Give Go Tax Resolution a call today to schedule your consultation and make this the year to take back control. That's 985-722-1040 or visit us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Where should you spend this summer? At Hooters, of course. Swing into Hooters for our new $9.99 lunch specials. Available Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. Choose from Baja Shrimp Tacos, a quarter-pound cheeseburger, or wings tossed in your favorite Hooters sauce. All served with fries. Plus,
I'm back. I was in the bathroom too.
at Hooters. Hooters has everything
Let's do
you're
another
craving
text.
all summer long. Hooters. Winging it since
How about this? How long does an insurance company have to pay a car crash claim? Yeah.
Man, dude, God, these texts are rolling in. How does scholarship one? That's tricky.
Which one? What's one say? Let's see.
Someone texted in and said, "How does scholarships fit into the new plans for sports, Joe?"
That'll be one of the best. Yeah.
Fighting Tigers.
Let's do that.
Scholarships just obsolete.
Well, they're gonna get Scott. They're gonna get free school. That's part of the deal.
As Louis
That's
together
it.
to chase baseball.
I'm glad the texts are rolling in, man. We spend so much time on the sports stuff, but it's so important, and it's literally like the perfect topic for our show.
Right.
Innovative and complete solutions for all divisions of the oil.
Okay, so what did you want here? Did you want the insurance car claim one, or
Yeah, let's do the insurance car claim one.
Okay, and then we might be able to fit in the scholarship one.
Yeah.
Let's see, if I hire a person to trim my tree and he gets hurt, am I liable? If you hire someone that's not insured, but you have them sign a form that you are not responsible for an injury to the homeowner, be safe from lawsuits.
Let's do those two. Let's do the car. Let's do the car accident first, and then the tree, and then after that break, we could maybe do the scholarships. Yeah, scholarship. Yeah.
And we can always, hey, this isn't going away. I can, you know what? I could email myself that question and bank it and keep it for next week.
Yeah.
Add some star-spangled style to your summer with Ashley's Stars and Stripes sale going on now. Shop Hot Buys for every room in your home, now just $6.99. Plus, you can save up to $1,000 store-wide. And don't miss upgrading your patio. Save up to 20% on select outdoor furniture. Or feel the freedom to buy now and pay over time with 0% interest until 2030 on in-store purchases made with your Ashley Advantage Synchrony credit card. Only at Ashley. Subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See store for details.
At California Psychics, we know some people can't read.
I'm banking that one. We'll try to fit it in if we can, but we've talked a lot about that already, so it's not going to be the end of the world if we don't get to it.
Me buy lunch, okay? It's Carrie, ma'am. Just get it done, Terry.
So talk to California Psychics and receive career
why don't you tell Albert the question we're going to ask him?
you with the very best. So guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. California.
All right, come back.
Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com today for limited time offers.
All things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the Oak.
I did not have time to tell Albert, but you can get to me fast and I'll get to it.
Oh, 1-870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. All things legal. LSU baseball. One more to the College World Series versus West Virginia. Pre-game, 4:30. First pitch at 5. Tune in, listen to Chris Blair, Buzzy Heidel, and Doug Thompson, who are wonderful, some of the best in the nation. And I'm conflicted because I love listening to Ben McDonald on ESPN, but tune in to Odyssey.com, listen to Chris Blair and Buzzy Heidel and Doug Thompson. They are fantastic to watch the game with. All right, got another text. Colin, for Albert, what do you have?
Yep, someone said, how long does an insurance company have to pay a car crash claim after it is filed under Louisiana law?
Well, it depends obviously on the liability issue, right? But in terms of the property damage claim, that's a lot quicker. That's a 14-day turnaround from the date they have a satisfactory proof of loss. So if they come out and they give you an estimate, they got to pay you rather quickly. Now, if there's a liability question, and as to whether or not the driver of the other vehicle's insurance company is insured or not, right? I'm sorry, is at fault or not? Then that's a whole different, ball of wax. They can hold off and try to determine the liability aspect before they pay any of the property damages. And in that case, you would end up going to your own insurance company if you have collision coverage and then paying your deductible, and they would fight with the other company to go ahead and
we could try to do rapid fire if you want me to try to knock out some of these.
pay, who gets paid what, right? But in terms of the personal injury aspect of it, or any other damages you might have, they're really under no obligation to pay if it's a third-party carrier, right? So
I'm gonna bank the scholarship question. We can try to get to it next segment. I'm gonna try to knock out some more
legal question. Okay.
Go to trial.
Yeah, I'll try to knock out some more.
Work. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on lawyers if it looks like liability's clear, or at least they would try to resolve it somehow before they got to that point. But there is no time frame for that. Now it's up to your attorney on the other end to move forward with the case, and so try to get some cutoffs and deadlines set with the court before a pretrial conference, and then that would give them the opportunity to, the parties the opportunity to engage in discovery, get their experts to, depose people, et cetera, and then move the matter to trial, file whatever pretrial motions they have, and then set it for trial. So
here, I can hop in. You don't even need to go to me.
No, not really. Now, if it's your uninsured or underinsured motorist carrier, then there are time frames that they have a 60-day window to pay you what reasonable minds could not disagree upon in terms of the value of your case, and that would even include your general damages, your pain and suffering, et cetera. So and then there's pretty strict penalties for their failure to do that. But that's it in a nutshell. Your own insurance company, your first party insurance carrier, has a bigger
I got it. No worries.
thing sooner. But to
say lightning round
so much.
Okay.
We had a couple more roll in. Do some quick lightning round answers here, Albert. Someone texted in: if I hire a person to trim my tree and he gets hurt, am I liable?
You could be liable for workers' compensation if he does not have his own workers' comp. And if he's an individual, right? The individual can opt out of workers' comp if he has some sort of liability policy. You obviously want someone with liability coverage if they're trimming a tree.
Try to fit in the if someone's not insured question, and then break. Depends on how long it goes here.
That they have insurance for that. So it's you go. The simple answer is you go at your own risk when you hire individuals off the street. Look, they may do a terrific job.
He's actually, this answer applies to both questions. So we'll break and then come back with scholarships and LSU preview.
But the problem is if they don't, and they're injured or they damage something and they have no insurance.
He's done. You can take us a break.
Pulling them back because you may never see him again if they damage something, or if they trim a tree over your roof and it damages your roof. That's a real dangerous proposition. I would get somebody who is licensed and insured to do that. Now, if you have someone come paint a living room, you're buying risk, right? Is that a less of a risk that you have to worry about? An 8-foot ceiling, they might step up on a 1 or 2 step ladder to get to the ceiling. So those are just, the chances of them being injured are much, much less, or even causing damages. So.
All right, let's go. All right, well, next is our final break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
WWL, home of Louisiana's great outdoors with Don DeBeer.
We'll finish with...
How much time we're going to have?
We should have, 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
4 to 5.
Okay.
Your favorites, Bobby Abin.
We were going to do we could do the scholarship question. We had one more roll in. If you see it on the text line, don't know if this is your forte. My parents died in an automobile accident. They rented their home but left me $50,000. Someone told me to pay I think this is the less taxes on that is to invest in my property or some property. Do you know if this is correct?
$30,000.
I don't know what they mean by the less taxes. I guess they're trying to avoid taxes with the $50,000 that was left to them.
They were going to basically like hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
You hire someone that's not. Oh, it's the same question. Text you back. Yeah, we can do the scholarship question here if you want. If not, again, I can email it to myself. We can bank it for another day. We can have it for next week because this NCAA NIL stuff is not going away anytime soon.
No.
Tax Relief, the best place.
Let me think. It is 5240. We're back on the air at about 55. 50. So we're back on the air. Basically, I'll do music and rejoin at 56. You have a little less than 4 full minutes. You want to do anything, or you just want to talk ball?
We'll just talk ball. We'll just
you guys can talk ball. I'm gonna email that question myself and bank it for next week.
Okay, that'll be good.
My baby and me, we're feeling so.
I'll email. Actually, you know what? I'll do all questions we haven't gotten to, and I'll bank them for next week. You can never have too many questions.
People from all over the world. As residents, we get to live it every day. When it comes to shopping and dining, choose local. Local businesses are the heartbeat of our community, bringing a unique touch to everything we do and experience right here in New Orleans. When you shop and dine locally, you're helping your neighbors, your friends, and our city thrive, providing jobs and supporting families. It's estimated that for every dollar spent with a local business, 68 cents stays right here, creating a better life for all of us. Whether it's a cozy coffee shop, a family-owned boutique, or your favorite restaurant, shop and dine where you live, work, and play. Brought to you by WWL Radio and the people who live, work, and play here. No one wants to work anymore. All these kids are lazy and entitled.
Well, hello to you too, Grandpa. Ever since we started using E3 Industrial Staffing, we've had no problem finding safe, reliable, cost-effective, and productive people.
These guys actually work?
Guys who show up, gear up, and give a damn. No fluff, no...
So then you're hitting the gym and you're hitting church. Are you going to try and watch the 2 p.m. Arkansas-Tennessee game on
Yeah, I can watch that at the gym. They got TVs.
985.
And then I'll have, and then we're on ESPN 2 at 5. I'll have it on here in the station.
Oh, yeah.
$1 billion insurance companies.
Sean.
Do you like listening to
I prefer Blair. I really do. Blair is like, I prefer Blair over anything.
I love Doug Thompson. I think he's great.
Are you barely?
I like the dynamic they have together.
Yeah, they're
National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about.
Ozzy Heidel is good. Bill Frank is sometimes he's a bit too
dry,
bit too rigid.
Yes,
but
yes.
I appreciate what he does.
Right.
But Doug Thompson is like, the best way to describe it is Blair is the perfect mix of everyone around him.
Right.
But Doug brings out a little bit of the casual side in Blair, the little bit of the I'm going to be a little loose on the air, Blair. I like that.
Yeah, plus he's got a nice blend of Homer and analyst.
Oh, yeah.
Rocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-207-4545.
I think between Doug Thompson and Ben McDonald are two of the best analysts I've ever heard.
800-207-4545.
All right, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. All things legal. That doesn't make the hair on your arm stand up. Nothing will. You talk about. I think about LSU baseball. When I was in my first senior year, we used to go to LSU baseball games and study because nobody was at the games. It was quiet. And you could have a diversion. You didn't have a cell phone there where you could divert yourself. So you'd spread out your books in the stands and you'd study. A game's going on, and then when you wanted to take a little break, you watch part of the game. Nobody was bothering you. There was probably nobody within the stands, 40 feet or 50 feet of you in the stands. And look at it today. So we'll see. First pitch is 5 o'clock pregame at 4:30, and got a couple of minutes. Albert, any parting shots?
No, it's I would just weigh in on the Saints real quick. You know, I'm hopeful, right?
Yes.
You know, I hope we have a Brock Purdy. I'm hopeful
Yes.
that we can get there quickly. And what I'm really hopeful is that our offensive lineman that was picked out of Texas is a stud and can jump into the game quickly, and make our line better. And that will give those guys back there that extra second or two to make the reads, to you know, figure out where to check down the ball or make the plays. You know, we got a lot of pieces of our puzzle. I mean, I love the linebacker pick. I think he's going to be a starter.
Yeah, I think
the guy's all over the ball. So, and that's going to make people better, everybody better. We've got the pieces. I like this coach. You know, I'm optimistic. Are we going to win 10 games this season? Probably not. You know, are we going to win 5, maybe 6? You know, and compete and get better during the season? I think so. I like the direction that it's going.
Well, I think a lot has to do with expectations. Last year, you know, if you had expectations, you're going to win 9 or 10, and you win 4 or 5. It's like a horrible year. But now we have expectations that we're going to win 4 or 5. So if we win 6 or 7, we'll feel good about it because we have exceeded expectations. And I think as far as the Saints fans are concerned, even if we win 6 or 7 games, but we play our rear ends off and we play hard and we play inspired, I think the fan base will be okay with it. And so, and you know, with the first round pick from Texas, he played. The good part is he played in the SEC, and playing in the SEC is almost like playing in the NFL. So if he's going to be NFL ready, you know, be coming from the SEC, that's the closest thing to it. So, yeah, I'm hopeful. You know, we you know, that's part of. Hey, you know, hopefully,
part of being a fan.
That's right, part of being a fan, and you know, we'll see. But I do like Kellen Moore. He does conduct himself well. All right, so we'll see you next week on All Things Legal. Stay tuned on Odyssey, WWL AM FM Odyssey for LSU on 4:30 pregame, 5 o'clock first pitch. So on our way to Omaha, and we'll leave by saying, "Go Tigers!"